I'm going to be working in my big art journal today, and I've already prepared the page with gesso, which is now dried. I want to use this plastic packaging that came around some Valentine's flowers that my husband bought me. I really like the design of it, and it seemed too nice to throw away, so I cut them out, and I want to use these pieces as a border for the first page of the spread. It's going to be a double page spread, and I'm just sort of positioning them where I'd like them to be. I decided to use this cheap clear PVA glue, which probably wasn't really that brilliant of an idea because it didn't really stick that well, and as you'll see a bit later, I had to stick some of it back down again with ordinary tacky glue, and that seemed to do the trick. I'm just applying the glue liberally to the page, and it's just that was just a cheap glue that I got from Tesco's, which is one of our major supermarket chains in the UK. I think it was mostly designed for school children, that's probably why it was cheap, but quite often those sort of products work really well and a lot cheaper than the main named brands. I've got all the borders glued, and I'm just showing that I'm going to be using a Faber-Castell big brush pit pen, and I've got a ruler there, and I'm going to be drawing some lines because I want to create a border around some of the spread. And now I'm colouring using a Spectrum Noir alcohol pen. I want to add some writing on this side of the page, so I've lightly sketched it in with pencil, and now I'm going over with the big brush pen again to make the lines a bit thicker and also do the outlining of the lettering. I decided to use this die cut heart as a stencil, and I'm going to use this Liquitex Basics red paint and a sponge dauber. It took a long time because you had to keep matching up the hearts as you were going along, but I was quite pleased with the overall outcome of it. And now I'm using Liquitex acrylic ink in red to fill in the spaces between the writing. I went over it a couple of times to make it darker, as the first coat was quite translucent. I painted the opposite side of the page with grey acrylic paint, so I wanted it to match the grey of the plastic panel. I'm going to use this stamp by Papermania, which has a texture like fabric, and I'm going to stamp that all over the grey so that it matches the fabric texture again on the plastic, and I'm going to do that off camera with a darker colour grey. I'm also going to use this heart border again to stencil all around the edges so that it matches the piece that I've put in the middle panel. So I'm going to do that as well off camera. So here's the border completed and the grey panels stamped in the middle, and now I'm going to start adding embellishments. I've drawn a faint outline in pencil of where I want the stems to my flowers to be, so I'm going to use the Pitt pen again to draw those in, and then I'll be gluing on the rest of my embellishments. I fussy cut all these elements from the same plastic panels. There was a variety of large and small hearts. To glue the same heart elements onto the other page to create a balance between the two pages. to doodle around each letter, so I've laid down a piece of paper so I don't smudge anything underneath, and I'm going around putting in white dots using a secure jelly roll pen. I'm now using a chocolate baroque stamp to put in some little dandelion clocks with black StazOn ink. Now I'm going to use my favourite Jofi stamp to put some cross hatches onto various places. I started off using StazOn cotton white ink, but it hardly showed up. I'm really not that impressed with that ink. So then I gave up with that and I changed and decided to do it with some colour box dye ink. I'm now using another stamp by Inkadinkadoo to add some little swirls to my stems. They didn't really stamp dark enough, so after I'd finished stamping them I went over them with one of my smaller pit pens just to make them darker. The ink in the pit pens is India ink, and once it dries it's permanent, so I really like using them. These are photos of the finished pages. Sorry, the light's shining against the plastic. You'll see that I've added some cross-hatch stamping on the actual petals of the flowers, and I've done some white doodling around these stems.